title pretty much sums it up. I'm pregnant and my SIL is getting married in a few weeks. We haven't told his family yet, waiting for second trimester. SIL's wedding will be around week 15 of my pregnancy. My husband is the eldest son and this will be their first grandchild, so will be a pretty big deal for the family. The reason I want to tell the family that week is because the whole extended family will be in town from out of state and I'd much prefer telling everyone in person than over phone call or text message. My husband thinks it'll upset SIL since we might be taking the spotlight away from her wedding. If we did announce that week, I would choose a time the weekend before the wedding during one of the family dinners when most, but not all, of the family will have arrived for pre-wedding festivities. I don't think the news will upstage SIL, and by the time wedding rolls around a week later my pregnancy will be old news. Husband thinks we should just wait until after the wedding and tell everyone via phone or text, but that feels so impersonal and certain members of his family are very peculiar about how major family news is shared. For example, when we announced our engagement to the family years ago by text, a few people expressed dismay at being told by text. So internet strangers, please pass your judgment. Would it be an asshole move to announce my pregnancy the weekend before my SIL's wedding? A lot of people commented we should ask SIL privately ahead of time. Good idea in theory, however both SIL and her husband are very accommodating people, sometimes overly so, and my husband and I can see them saying it's okay even if they don't feel that way. And once we ask the cat's out of the box because SIL will 100% tell their mom and their mom will 100% tell everyone. Next story. I know it sounds bad already, but bear with me. I 22F live with parents and 16F sister, as it's very uncommon in my country to move out of the family home unless married. My aunt from my mother's side lives with her 2 adult children 21M and 23F. Her husband died 2 years ago and ever since my mother has been really involved. My aunt was never independent, she always relied on her husband who wasn't the best husband nor father. Now that he has passed away, she's been fully relying on my mother as well as my father and didn't try to take matters into her hands. My mother and her have the same workplace but not the exact same work hours, so naturally she relies on her for transportation. My dad has been doing a lot of grocery shopping for them, they pay him back, and spending a lot of time at their house. He prides himself on becoming a new father figure for the kids. My female cousin idolizes him now and he's only been in her life recently. I on the other side don't have the best relationship with him as he always does the bare minimum for me and my sister, and obviously accepting someone was having the father-daughter relationship with my father that I never had wasn't the easiest. Over the last year they've been more and more present, always popping at our house and commenting on certain things as if they're entitled. Also, my mother is always concerned about them. We skipped Christmas lunch with my extended family because my aunt made lunch and my mother didn't want us to be additional mouths to feed. I got very upset, so we ended up joining after lunch. More recently my cousin announced in front of our whole extended family that she wanted my dad to be there instead of her father for her proposal. My father, who enjoys being a father figure without doing the parenting, rejoiced. I asked why wouldn't her uncles or brother do it. She said it should be my father, mentioning how one time she needed paperwork done and asked her uncle, who explained to her the procedure, while when she asked my father he just did it for her. More recently my grandpa fell quite ill and my mother had to go take care of him while my father, sister, female cousin and aunt had a chicken burger night, without me. Their constant presence is making me feel left out and irritated, so I asked my mother to limit relationships a bit as they can do their own grocery shopping and don't have to be at our house all the time. She never met any of demands, explaining that everyone is happy with the situation and I need to accommodate. More recently we've talked about it again as I became too fed up. She stormed off saying I can't dictate her life. So am I the asshole for wanting them less present in my family life? Next story. I've 28M, been dating Sally, 25F, for about a year now. Due to some family circumstances, several years ago she had to drop out of school and become a full-time mother for her niece and struggled to get by. Things are better now and her niece is back with her mother, so Sally traveled across the country to move in with me. Sally is in nursing school and also works part-time. Because of this, I pay for all of our bills, including rent, food, utilities, etc. She offers to pitch in, but I make enough to support both of us, so I tell her to save her money instead. I really do feel she was dealt a shitty hand in life, and if our relationship doesn't work out, I want to make sure she's in a position to stand on her own 2 feet, especially because she moved across the country to be with me, to a place where she didn't know anyone and is still working on making friends and developing a support system. 5 years ago, I went no contact with my parents. They didn't approve of my fiancé at the time because of her race, and she was a freelance artist and didn't have a proper job. I told my parents that their judgment was unwelcome, and if they forced me to choose between them, that I would choose her. They started harassing my ex-fiancé and her family and other horrible things. We eventually broke off the engagement. While my father hasn't expressed any remorse, my mom reached out to me about 6 months ago to sincerely apologize. She seemed to genuinely regret what she did, so we've been rebuilding our relationship. My mom now flies in to visit me for a weekend a month. While she knows I'm dating someone, I haven't introduced them yet. Because of what happened, it's just not something I feel comfortable with yet, and still need to develop more trust before I feel okay making that introduction. I've explained this to Sally and she completely understands. Whenever my mom visits, I'll put Sally up in a nice hotel, tell her to order room service and have fun for a weekend on my dime. At first I had my mom stay in a hotel. However, my job requires me to always be on call and I often need to jump on my laptop to work, so it was difficult to spend time with my mom. Everything's been fine between Sally and myself, but a few days ago our friends staged an intervention saying that the way I'm treating Sally is unfair. They say that our apartment is just as much Sally's as it is mine, and I have no right to kick her out to accommodate my mother. I disagree. I would never go forward with this arrangement if Sally weren't on board with it, which she has repeatedly told me she is. Also, while I would never leverage this fact to force Sally to leave the apartment, I've lived in this apartment since before we started dating and I pay for it. So I feel like our friend's argument doesn't make sense. Sally has told me to just ignore them and that she's fine with this, but now I can't help but worry if I'm treating her unfairly and she's putting up with it for my sake. Next story. I, 20F, met my BF, 20M, in high school, but we both started dating 9 months ago. He is a good guy, calm and rarely gets angry. His parents aren't the best. When he was a kid they were always busy with work, so he used to be left with his grandma, and whenever they were together they fought. When my BF was 17 his mom caught his dad cheating. That's when the divorce was finalized. He doesn't like to talk about his parents. My parents on the other hand are happy together, so about 1 month ago my BF met my parents for the first time. My parents are the old school type. They think that divorce is selfish and it destroys relationships and our image in the society, so it went well until the topic of his divorced parents was brought up. My parents were surprised, so they kept asking more, like why did the divorce happen? How did he felt when the divorce happened? Why didn't he stop them, etc. Now I know this was wrong, so I tried to stop them from asking about his parents, but they didn't. At the end they said they want to meet my BF's parents, only BCOZ they want to be more close with his family. He agreed after a lot of hesitation. Few days later my parents, my BF and his divorced parents were sitting together having dinner. The atmosphere was so tense that I already started regretting this. Halfway into the dinner and his parents started arguing. Probably BCOZ of some talk of divorce was brought up and they were busy blaming ATP. My BF visibly looked like he was about to lose it, so instead of saying anything he just got up, with me following him as I wanted to apologize. The minute I started apologizing to him, he lashed out on me with saying things like, "You know the condition between my parents, right? Yet you didn't stop our parents from organizing all this," etc. I took all of the remarks he was throwing at me, but then he brought up my parents. "Your parents are just like you, nosy. Don't they understand that not all couples have a fairy tale story like them?" Even in that first meet they kept on asking me about my parents. Don't they have anything better to do than prying on others' lives? Can't they *C King stay out of my family matters? Now I knew he was mad at my parents and it was understandable, but talking like that about them was not acceptable for me. So I argued back by saying, "Don't speak like that about my parents. They just wanted to know more about their only daughter's BF. It's not their fault that your parents' relationship is *CKED up." And after like 15 minutes of arguing he left along with his parents. It's been almost 2 weeks since me and my BF have talked with and now I am starting to question whether I was the wrong one. My parents say I did the right thing, but my friends say I went a bit overboard and now I am confused. I want to know whether I was really the one at fault.